creditor, meaning that the creditor had the obligation to settle the matter with the debtor but refused to do so when requested. So any request made by the debtor in possession to the creditor of the bankruptcy must be accepted. If not, the creditor turns into a delinquent creditor and gets liquidated by the debtor in possession. So if on a certain day a debtor comes to the creditor and says, "Forgive me this day of my debt," and the creditor does not openly and freely forgive the debtor, then the Lord will call him to account for that insult on the prepayment of debt. In theology, we would call it blasphemy against the Son of God. And in commerce, we would say that it's violation against public policy.
You can adapt these meditations to your own needs. They are meant to be guides to teach you how
be dishonor of benefit, which has already been utilized by the person when they became a part of the association of citizens who were guaranteed to one another that they would not hold one another accountable for any public liability.
Light is truly an art as well as a science.
Be a dishonor of a benefit,
do I have to
which has already been utilized by the person when they became a part of the association of citizens who were guaranteed to one another that they would not hold one another accountable for any public liability.
It is an excellent way of bringing down light in a clear and accurate way. So you want to do the higher self meditation when you have the time.
Now let's start to talk about these public policies.
You can call.
Now let's start to talk about those public liabilities that we are required to forgive. Anything that can be shown as an entry on a double entry bookkeeping account would be, of course, a public liability.
You don't have to leave the room and find
if a certain matter cannot be ledgered in double entry accounting,
you need to go directly into your
then it is most likely a matter to be resolved in a private manner.
Later, if you
and not in the public realm.
Negative energy,
you can easily discern the public versus private communication. Public request for adjustment will always come directly.
Sit down so you put your shoes on.
To
another very effective
public request for adjustment will always come directly to the trust account, demonstrated by the title of the trust being styled in all capital letters, such as all capital John H. Smith. This is a direct attempt to attach the bond of the John H. Smith Trust. This, of course, is a violation of public policy to attach a future liability by attempting to avoid the present liability. Look again at this diagram. Bill, note, bond. This is the typical demonstration of how one greater debt is used as the insurance policy for a smaller debt. The bill represents some past liability, where the note, the promissory note, represents the present liability, and then the bond is the indemnity for some future liability, yet undetermined. So a device or scheme that has been devised to attach the bond of the trust, which is in fact the labor of the men and women who have put themselves up as surety for the national debt, is for a holder of a past obligation to attempt to go around the present liability and to go to the bond of future. In other words, instead of settling the thing in the here and now, the present, the attempt is made to enslave the surety in some future event by attaching the bond. The way that we prevent that from going on is to take the bill that is sent to the bond and draw it back to the present by doing an acceptance of the bill and returning it for settlement back to the original presenter of the bill. When that is done, we have defeated the scheme of attaching the bond for future liability. Now let's look at the typical acceptance that could be done and what things we could do in conjunction with that to ensure the proper accounting in the double entry bookkeeping that needs to be done in order to adjust the accounts to zero. So there we have the basis of acceptance of value. The question that immediately arises when we talk about acceptance of value is what to do when the other party dishonors acceptance of value. Those remedies are available, will be the subject of other discussions at a later time.
The journey of spiritual
I still almost got some of this stuff. It's a little bit more clear. Man.
All the distractions come in. It really you can't really keep the follow it, that whole flow. You gotta be able to see that process from beginning to end and see it happening.
It's a good sheet. You gotta know the history so you can just actually understand exactly what's happening.
Why everything is prepaid, why it's not possible for you to be able to pay a debt that somebody is asking you to pay.
And they attempt to scheme you.
Right.
Too. They attempt to
it's a pretend to pay game. But they know it's not.
And they have you in dishonor. They know how to switch it.
Right.
They have you in dishonor.
And that's
now they the debtor in possession, and so now they're gonna cause you to be a delinquent creditor.
So I gotta liquidate.
And I know it's if you doing that cash thing, that's what they're doing. So I'm like, you ain't done your paperwork, they got you bold. That's why you went to that whole little debt
so you go in that courtroom and
you showed up on dishonor there. I know that as soon as you use the note talking about you paying the debt, you in dishonor. See, that's what I know about that money. I'm like, man, you don't even supposed to touch no money right now.
That's, especially after you put your paperwork in, that's why you keep the receipt. There's something about, you gotta be able to, send all of this, because you perpetuating debt. Oh,